Welcome, welcome. We're at part two of how to think about programming. So, previously we went over pretty much what questions to ask to get the most out of the start of writing a programming. So it's all about what does this person actually need? What are they actually going to do? And what actually matters? They're the most important things to start with. After the basics, it's more about just doing the basics really fucking well. That's what matters. So, first point I want to make, and this is will need a little bit of explanation, but I don't think nuance is that important. Attention is. So, yes, it matters if the MRV is maximum recoverable volume is massively blown out for an athlete. But you should pay attention and see that pretty quickly. You should know that your athlete is not recovering by paying attention to what they're actually doing. So all these finer ideas and optimalities sort of wash out if you just pay attention and follow where the progress is. If you see that someone is under recovered from squats and you drop it over time, it doesn't matter what is optimal for squats. It matters that you're paying attention and putting it on a track that is best for them. Again, what actually matters that they're fucking progressing. So it doesn't matter what's optimal. What's optimal is that they give you money. You are a coach. Someone's like, here's money. I want results for this money. And you're just like, okay. The result is, by definition, increasing strength. We are measuring that from estimated 1RM or actual 1RM over time. If those don't improve, you have done your job poorly. That is what is required. And yes, the athletes' actual buy-in is really important and all those factors, but you have to do the best you can. And what the best you can is getting that person results. Actually, this might actually be a very good segue into how to give someone what they want. Um, One of the things is having milestones and displaying that they're actually progressing because people want to feel accomplished. So part of programming is having aspects of you are doing well. This is an expression of you doing well. Continue, and keeping them happy with what's going on. This is the designer coming out of me, but having someone interact with your program and be excited and be like, this is cool. I want to do this. I want to progress. I see the progress. That's really useful. So you can. I don't like the I give people what they need, not that what they want, because you can give them what they need through what they want, and most of that is just actually making this process enjoyable. People like progress, but people also want to enjoy this experience. So keep that in mind that letting people max out is good. Like making being dogmatic and being like you're not allowed to do this, that's not a good approach. You should set high standards for people and have high expectations, and then as they meet them, you're gonna do well. Segue over. Let's get back into next section. Execution follows intention is what I like to say. It, and I'll try and explain myself. So pretty much everything that you put in a program, like we said before in the needs analysis, is should have a very specific intention, and it's really easy for strength sports. Like you could say it's again technique, muscle, and strength, and you can sort of put strength and technique sort of similar together, but there are slight differences. Um, let's just rattle off some definitions so we can actually know what we're talking about. Another segue. Using definitions is super useful because you know what everyone's talking about. Most of the issues with the fitness industry and disagreements is people actually not talking about the same thing. oh, this person's talking about RPE in this way, and this person's talking about RPE in this way. They're disagreeing, but they're actually disagreeing by different interpretations of what RPE is. So, how can they actually have a appropriate discussion about is RPE useful or not if they're talking about different things? So, having definition for different aspects of programming or coaching or strength sports is super useful. And also you can update it over time. So if you have, oh, this is how I think about technique and efficient use of force through space plus sustainability, I have a definition of technique. So over time, if I want to update it and I think it's different, I have something to compare it to, not just some whimsical idea of like what technique is. Like the fucking like there's no such thing as good technique. Yeah, because you didn't define good and you didn't define technique. Therefore, nothing falls into those categories. You can always be nebulous and have things in the air if you just never like have a definition of it. Rant over about the fitness industry. Let's get back to it. Execution follows intention. You should only have like two, pretty much. 2 to 3 in your program. Technique, increase muscle strength. So if you have a program and this is not the intent, or they're doing something weird that doesn't follow this, you're not doing it right. So how do you execute on each of these intentions? So if something is strength focused, it should be maximizing absolute load. You don't do exercises that push strength in the 60% weight range, because it doesn't actually help strength. So if people lift light in strength intended exercises, you're doing it wrong. Choose things where they can use maximal loads through movement, and that's a strength focused exercise. Otherwise, that's not the intention. So they have to match. Next, technique focus. Technique focus is actually the removal of constraints. So if you have someone maximally fatigued and then doing technique work, that doesn't make sense. Unless you're doing it with the constraint of you want them performing this technique under fatigue, which doesn't really make sense. It makes a lot of sense in like CrossFit, something like that. It doesn't really make sense in a strength component. So you want technique exercises performed not that fatigued, not that heavy, not that under pressure, to reinforce whatever change you're trying to make. Obviously, load is dependent on that, so technique at upper ends is done like quite heavy, but you're not adding in multiple layers of fatigue and reps prior to it. Like, imagine doing a superset and then being like, oh, it's for technique work. That'd be retarded. Don't do that. So, next up, muscle growth focus. Tension in the prime mover. It's real fucking simple, but it seems to like elude 90% of people. If your intention is to grow a muscle, you must feel tension in said muscle in some aspect. It has to be approaching some sort of failure. If you do squats and all you feel is your like lower back, or I don't know, your elbow is too sore because you're in a low bar position, that's not muscle growth focused, because you're not really growing the quads. Do you feel your quads in a maximal set of 2 of low bar squats? Not really. Like maybe you feel a little bit of tension, but compared to a set of like a lighter high bar set of 5, there you actually feel tension in the prime mover, the quad. So if you don't match your intention with the execution, you're fucking up a little bit. So match them, and you'll have a good time. So next thing, programming mistakes. We'll just quickly go through that. Then we're on. It's getting a little bit hot, getting a bit sweaty. Might be getting a bit too into it, some would say. So first up is being too strict. So you can have your way. You can be like, this is the way I do things. That works until it doesn't. And that's how you can quite easily like get derailed or just lose people because they don't fit into your system. So being too strict can look can be with setting only a certain type of program, or also setting a certain type of progression. If you're increasing 5 kilos every week and they can't keep up, that's not going to work for someone. If you're setting 5 kilos every week and they're jumping up 10 kilos every week, that can also be a problem. Having we squat once a week and then you have a light female lifter that doesn't progress and they're like, I feel like I'm recovered the next day, you're being too strict. So having flexibility and realizing that like there you can have your own style of programming, but it has to adapt to many different people. Otherwise, you can just serve one type of person and you can get pretty close with a lot of people. But being too strict can really like stifle you. You just like don't have anything going on. So be a bit more creative, be a bit more open, realize that there's no set way of programming. It's just whatever works for this person and what they want, that's a program that works. Add your own style, you'll develop it as a coach as you go. Next one, trying to do too much. Programming can be exciting. This person wants everything. They want to get bigger, they want to get stronger, they want to get faster, they want all these things. Cool. It's a really easy way to get nothing is by giving them everything, and especially giving them everything at the start. Hey, I can tolerate heaps of volume and I like going heavy. It's like, cool, you have not proved that to me, and we will get there because programs only get harder. So giving someone like a little bit and ensuring the quality and then driving that up over time is I think the best way of like getting people on board. But if you try and do too much at the same time, a lot of the time people get burnt out. Maybe they're like, oh, I feel great for 2 weeks, and then like one day gets derailed and they're fucked. So try to just like choose a few things, make sure those are progressing. If everything's progressing, cool. But if you have things that are just like not working, look at the stuff, maybe reduce it a little bit. Last one is changing things too often. Strength programming, again, pretty simple. So we should not be revolutionizing the programming each 3 or 4 weeks. Like, it does change and there's different styles, but like, you don't know if something's working unless you run it for a little bit of time. Like, can get a general idea if something's not working, but like, run it to 2 to 3 blocks is usually a pretty good idea to be like, is it actually working? Let's see how this plays out, and then you can make bigger changes over longer periods. Like, there's no reason to go from like 4 days, 4 days squatting a week to 1 to 4 in like over 3 blocks. I think that's how people get like, honestly, that's how people get injured as well. If just like, okay, we're just going to introduce crazy different stuff all the time. Just like make mild changes, actually be able to reflect on what you're doing. Then you're going to have a bit better time when it comes to like finding success and actually knowing if it is successful and have a bit of repeatability in it. Okay? So that's another way, questions and thoughts to like get to the next level of programming. Similar to the first one, it's just like nailing the basics, just making sure that every single time you are like making sure the exercise makes sense in this program. What do they need? Give them that. Make sure it's working. Repeat. All right? Cool. And I'll see you lads in the next video.